best in a single category. There are things that they do better than anything else. So today
Hey, y'all go fuck my Twitch, man. Come on now. We finna start streaming soon, so make sure y'all go follow that. Run it up. Love y'all. Kissies. Yo, told you. Part 2. What's good, DLC? How you doing, family? Man, back again with another video. Hey, like I said, shout out to Corkmonic. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. And Sammy, bro. Corkmonic was the one who recommended these videos, but Sammy and him were having an interaction in my comment section, really just like made my heart happy. So thank you to those guys. And you know what? Shout out to my cousin Deja, bro. I love how she's supporting me and all this. She comment on every video that she watched pretty much. And shout out to my brother Sean, bro. I love you, my brother. I know you're gonna be saying some weird shit in the comment section, but I do love you, my brother. You're a real ass nigga. You're the one who really told me to not give up on this YouTube shit, even though like I went months and months without a sub. I wanna tell you all thank you, and I appreciate y'all. But that's not what y'all here to see. Why hippos are OP? They got them big ass motherfucking jaws on them, boy. And fucking type shit. You feel me? You look on the screen, you'll see my YouTube analytics. The subscribed to the not subscribed ratio is crazy. So please, 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 please subscribe to the channel, man. Look, bro, that. Oh my god! Oh my god!
this episode is sponsored by Dashlane.
I'm gonna like this shit. I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna like this.
Africa, the game's hardcore server. On top of the potentially lethal heat and disease debuffs, many of the most powerful builds in the game are playable only on the Africa server.
Oh my god.
Everyone knows the big names. Elephants are the biggest, cheetahs are the fastest, cobras are the most venomous, etc. However, one of the builds that frequently gets overlooked is the hippopotamus.
Facts.
Even though none of their stats are the best in a single category, there are things that they do better than anything else. So today I'm going to give an overview of the hippopotamus's stats and abilities, talk about its good and bad matchups, and where I'd rate it in the overall tier list. I've already done one video that sort of touches on all these things, but since it was one of the first videos I ever made, it's pretty lacking in quality. So hopefully this guide will do a better job doing the topic justice. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into it. Hippos are the
I heard if like a hippo bites you, or like, yeah, bite you, and your arm is in there, cause it's gonna bite you and try to rip your arm off. You're supposed to just like reach around in there and just grab whatever you can to try to make them open their mouths or throw up. But the crazy part about that's just the defense mechanism, bro. It's like they do that so you will leave them alone. Cause they don't eat meat. They eat vegetables and plants and things like that. That's just crazy. Hippos are OP.
Premier tank build of the African aquatic meta. Their success comes from a combination of phenomenal stats and from speccing into abilities that allow for some pretty ingenious exploitation of the game's water physics, which I'll get into in a bit. But first, their stats. So you probably noticed that the Hippo stats are, in a word, phenomenal.
Facts.
They have one of the highest HP levels of any land build, second only to the elephant. Normally, builds with one unusually high base stat tend to have major shortcomings in other areas, but the Hippo simply doesn't. While its intelligence is only average, all the rest of their stats far outclass most other African builds. They have great damage, high defense, and even have great stealth for a build in such a high weight class. But perhaps the most surprising is their mobility level, which relates to how their abilities let them engage in physics engine exploits like I mentioned earlier. So in addition to having relatively high run speed on land, hippos are also unbelievably mobile in the water. Now, normally when designing your character to be fast in the water, you spec into traits like, you know, water mobility. Things like a streamlined body, fins, flukes, webbed feet, all these things strictly buff water speed, and usually are the go-to for players trying to take their character to new depths in the aquatic meta. The Hippo player base decided to do exactly none of that, instead dumping most of their evolution points into pure bulk and muscle. As a result, hippos are so dense that, unlike most animals, they do not float. This lets them be one of the only builds that can actually use the run movement option underwater with any success. So yeah, hippos, despite not actually being able to swim, have one of the best aquatic movement options in the game, and they didn't even have to spend any evolution points on aquatic mobility to do so.
That's crazy.
So, hippos have 4 signature abilities, the first being their water dash ability that I just explained. Their second ability is their 2-inch thick skin. This ability is the reason behind their high defense level, and it grants them some of the best resistances in the game, particularly to the common threats in the African server. It grants them near total immunity to slash and bite type damage, since claws and teeth simply are too short to pierce their skin. This lets them shrug off the vast majority of standard attacks in the African meta, and is also crucial for letting them survive attacks even from groups of enemies, which is normally the answer to defeating a high HP target. Defending from physical attacks is important, but it's just as critical to make sure your elemental resistances are adequate too, because hippos have spec'd into the hairless trait in order to minimize mobility debuffs in the water. They're highly vulnerable to solar damage. In order to mitigate this issue, hippos have spec'd into sweat that grants them UV resistance and, as an added bonus, grants them resistance to infection, another hugely beneficial trait to have when you spend most of your time in unclean water, potentially with open wounds. The only downside is that, while active, it gives the hippo players a reddish tint, temporarily lowering their stealth level. Their last special trait is their tusks. Hippos haven't spec'd into carnivory or even omnivory. They're strictly herbivorous and can't gain any XP from meat.
They what?
Their last special trait is their tusks. Hippos haven't spec'd into carnivory or even omnivory. They're strictly herbivorous and can't gain any XP from meat. However, regardless of this fact, they have one of the most damaging bites in the game. On top of the sheer force of the bite itself, which is around a ton by the way, their tusks deal massive damage to anything they puncture. But on top of the hippo's damage potential, their tusks offer another important benefit: intimidation. So the most effective intimidation techniques are the ones that can be quickly switched on and off.
Oh my god, he's scaring me. He's scaring me. Oh my god. Oh, I can't look at the screen. Oh my fucking god. The fuck? Yo, what the fuck is that?
A coral snake's colors are always bright, and a spider is always creepy, but hippos aren't always terrifying. In fact, most of the time they appear non-threatening, yet in an instant they can crank up the intimidation to 100 just by opening their mouths. A hippo player with intimidation active is one of the most intimidating things in the entire game, easily being able to scare off even some of the bulkiest builds like rhinos. Okay, so for matchups, hippos sport one of the most comfortable matchup spreads possible. Because they're highly resistant to bite and slash attacks, most of the relevant predator matchups, such as crocodiles, lions, hyenas, and painted dogs, are highly favorable for the hippo. On top of this, the hippo's own attacks can one-shot any of those predators. As for bad matchups, any builds that focus on stab-type weaponry can definitely give a hippo a hard time. In particular, elephants and rhinos both have long enough horns or tusks to pierce the hippo's thick skin and deal critical damage to a hippo foolish enough to challenge them. Fortunately, the rhino's low intelligence makes it highly susceptible to intimidate abilities, so that matchup is by no means unwinnable. Elephants, though, they'll walk straight through a group of hippo players, knowing none of them will challenge it. Also, ironically, one of the worst matchups for a hippo is another hippo, since a hippo's tusks do have the potential to pierce their defenses. The last important matchup to discuss for them is how they fare against humans, and in this regard, they've got one of the best records of all. Obviously, they still lose to the highly advanced equipment that humans have recently unlocked, but aside from that, humans don't have any way to combat them. As a result, hippos have the highest KD ratio versus humans in the entire game. Even special high-level mounts, like boats and trucks, can be taken down by a hippo. So where do hippos belong on the tier list? Well, considering how they're basically unstoppable tanks that manage to spec into an excellent semi-aquatic playstyle without sacrificing any land-based abilities to do so, it's tough to argue that they're anything but S tier. They easily control any rivers or lakes that they're in, being even more dominant than crocodiles. In fact, while currently the vast majority of the hippo player base is in the African server, a few of them have recently broken into the South American meta. Now, hippos have one of the lower spawn rates in the game, so it'll be a while before we can really assess their viability in servers outside of Africa. But I would bet that eventually hippos will be one of the most dominant builds in South America too, especially since they have great matchups against the top tiers there too, like the Cayman and the Jaguar.
This is a cheetah, but let's be real, ain't no way. Fucking saying ain't no way any big cat is taking down a hippo, even a jaguar. That's true, but like, why you always gotta disrespect cheetahs, bro? Cheetahs is like majestic creatures. Yeah.
Jaguar. The piranha player base might give them a hard time though, so we'll have to wait and see. Their thick hide offers a lot of protection, but with hundreds of bites chipping it away, even the hippo might struggle.
True.
Protecting your hit points is critical to survival in the current meta, but
cool.
Perhaps equally important is protecting your passwords, and that's where today's sponsor Dashlane comes in.
Okay,
Dashlane is what I personally use to protect my passwords and keep myself safe online, because it literally does everything. As someone who's forgotten passwords more than my fair share of times, it saved me countless headaches over the course of the past year. You can try Dashlane for free by using the link in the description of this video, and you'll be supporting my content in doing so. And by using the code TIERZOO, you can even get 10% off the premium membership. Thank you all for watching.
See, I would do that, but you don't post videos enough for me, so I'm not doing that. And if you like the video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to watch the original video without my commentary, hit that first link in the description. I had to pause for suspense. And with that, I do bid y'all adieu. Wait, no. I want to thank y'all again, man. Not just those people that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, but everybody that's watching this. So sub. Hey, maybe you'll get a shout out in the next video. Recommend them, bro. I'll give you a shout out if you recommend. I promise. Scout's honor. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.